And we're going to make black onion today, and it came out wild. Okay, let's get started. This was inspired by a YouTube viewer by the name of Francisco Torreblanca Diaz, and he simply asked, and if you do it with onions, question mark, what do you get? Regards from Chile. Well, I told Francisco that I was going to give it a shot, and this is the end result. So let's go through the process and see what happens when you do this with onions. Now, he was watching one of our black garlic videos, and as you know, I think we have like 4 of them now, different methods of black garlic. And so what we're going to do is we're going to apply the same principle of making black garlic to this onions. And so we're going to need a rice cooker that locks. You're going to want to put something at the bottom of your rice cooking pot, something that just elevates it off the ground, 3-4 millimeters. In this case, I have, wooden chopsticks, but those of you who watch my videos know that I've got some trusty rocks that I like to use. And we're just going to go ahead and pop that steamer right back in. And all I did was I cut the lip on the steamer that typically allows it to set on top. And so what we're going to do is we have 3 medium onions, and I'm just going to wipe them down and clean them, make sure they're nice and no dirt or anything like that on them. And I'm going to pop them in the pot, the rice cooker pot, with a little ramekin of water, and that's it. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of monitor this over the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and see what happens. And we're going to make sure that we pop it all and try to film it for you so you can see what's going on. So here we go. We have our 3 onions, nice big plump onions, a little ramekin of water, and it's time to go ahead and lock it down. So all you're going to do is you're going to put it in your rice cooker if you choose to do this, and put it on the keep warm setting and lock it down. And basically you don't want to disturb it. You don't want to, once you close it, trust that it's going to do what it's supposed to do, and check it in 1 week intervals. So this is 1 week later. First thing that I notice as I open it up is the smell. It smells like a sweet onion. The water is completely evaporated. So here in a minute, I'm going to go ahead and refill that. And the reason I add the water is to increase the humidity within the chamber. I don't want them to dry out, and I want a relatively high humidity. And so just looking at the onions, they're starting to caramelize. They're very soft, very, very soft. And it actually concerns me a little bit because I don't want them to turn to mush. And so I'm going to add water about 3/4 of the way of a small ramekin. And we're going to go ahead and check it in 1 week. Okay, 2 weeks later. So we're 14 days into the cooking process. Notice I have a date. Just to remind me, I have a lot of these generally going on at the same time. This is what it looked like after 14 days. And it actually looks very promising. I'm going to go ahead and cut into it and see what happens. Now, I don't know if you remember, if you've seen any of my videos on black garlic, you're going to know that there's stages of caramelization when it comes to cooking things like this. Garlic, onions, shallots, things like that have a high sugar content. And generally, when they're brown, it means that they're roughly halfway to 3/4 of the way into the caramelization process. And so typically, if you're doing an onion or if you're doing a garlic, and you notice that it's brown like that, just continue cooking it, and it's going to eventually turn black. So sometimes products like this take a little bit longer based off of the water content, the humidity, the temperature. There's a lot of factors that determine how fast they caramelize. And so this is 14 days into the process. It's very soft. It's almost slightly falling apart as I'm holding it. It smells wonderful, and I'm dying to taste it. I can't wait to see how it tastes. I like the color of it. And if you look at products, there's a particular Japanese black onion called a umekin, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but that's an actual fermented onion that is fermented for about a month. This is not a fermented onion. This is a cooked onion. It's albeit cooked at a very low temperature. Let's taste this and see what happens. Right now I'm getting a very interesting, sweet, tangy flavor from the onion. It's not at all what I expected. And I realized, you know what, this still actually has a long way to go. So I'm going to pop it back in there for about 2 more weeks. And I'm going to give it 1 month, 4 weeks basically of cook time. So this is 30 days after I began. Notice those 2 small pieces? Those 2 small pieces right there that you see, that's the onion that we cut into about at week 2. So this is what it looks like now. So at week 2, it was very brown and partially caramelized, or in the process of caramelization. At week 4, notice how much weight it's lost, and it's completely black. So that's the tip of the onion. That's the part that grows in the ground with the roots. We take that off. And what I did differently was I didn't add a ramekin of water for the last 2 weeks. And so I kept the water out of it. And what that helped do is that, because there was a lot of moisture, that helped dry them out considerably. All we're doing here is we're just peeling the outside of the onion. And, you know, after you're done with an experiment, and you can always go back and say, man, I wish I would have done this differently. What I should have done was peel the onions first and quite even possibly use something like a Vidalia or a pearl onion, now that I'm looking back on it. But here, you know, here we go. So I needed to peel the outer layer, and I'm going to go ahead and cut into it and see what it looks like. And so these are my 2 whole onions. And as I cut into it, immediately I realize that the outer few layers are more caramelized than the inner few layers. And so that really tells me a whole lot, because the piece that I'm cutting into now, that was the part that at 2 weeks of cooking looked the same way. It was completely brown. And so what I think is, if I would have peeled the onions and cut them in half and then put them in the rice cooker, I think they would have had more surface area to caramelize a little more evenly. And so what we're looking at basically is we're looking at 2 stages of caramelization. So if I were to do it again, I'd peel the onions, maybe use Vidalia or pearl, and cut them in half, and then go ahead and let them ferment. But it's got a really neat texture, same kind of texture as the black garlic. It's very spongy. It's got a lot of bounce to it. It has a very sweet smell, although it is not in any way, shape, or form the way that black garlic smells. And black garlic has such a unique smell when it's coming out of the rice cooker. And so if you've done any research, you'll know that there's actually something called umekin, if I'm pronouncing it right. It's a Japanese black onion that's supposed to have these extraordinary, like, healing properties. It's got an antioxidant called quercetin, which is supposed to help with inflammation. Anyway, that particular Japanese black onion is fermented. And this is not a fermented black onion. This is simply a cooked onion at very low temperatures, roughly at about 140 degrees. Same thing with the black garlic. There's a lot of confusion on YouTube where people continue to call black garlic fermented garlic, and you're going to ferment it in your rice cooker. Well, that's not true at all. A fermented black garlic is generally fermented around 80 to 90 degrees with high humidity. When you're putting it in a rice cooker at 140 degrees, you're actually cooking it. And so 2 humongous differences between fermenting and cooking, and you're obviously going to get more health benefits if you ferment rather than cook, especially something like an onion. And so right as I'm tasting it, very savory, very umami, slightly sweet with a hint of molasses. It's really weird. It's not nearly as strong as black garlic is. Black garlic has these really incredible notes. If you were to add this to a recipe, it would be very subtle. Notice the part that is slightly less caramelized. We're going to go ahead and taste that. It's very tender, very soft. You can almost spread it on a piece of toast. And it actually has a really interesting tangy quality to it, a very tangy and sweet aspect to it. And so independently, they both have a unique flavor, both aspects of caramelization. It doesn't taste like caramelized onions, but It's kind of cool. This process took roughly about 30 days, and it looks like it could probably go another 15 days in order to complete the process. And so, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and give it a thumbs up and share it. Click that notification bell. And if you're new to some of my videos, you're going to realize very quickly we do all sorts of things. And so we're into fermentation. We're into sharpening knives and doing outrageous things. We run a commercial kitchen, so we've got all kinds of projects going on. So be sure to subscribe and leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of this black onion business.